There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first in our series of Trends in Canada interviews. Today, we are very privileged to have Mary-Anne McPherson here. Mary-Anne and I met 3.5 years ago during her book launch. And we have stayed in touch, and I have been privileged to receive some of her services, and I wanted to introduce some of those to you today, as well as get her perspective on current health trends in Canada today in regards to alternative health care, how Canada and how Canadians are maybe moving more away from mainstream medicine and looking for more ancient alternatives or natural alternatives. So Mary-Anne has been in the business of holistic nutrition and care for 2 decades, a little over 2 decades. And she is a registered holistic nutritionist, a health coach. She is NLP practitioner certified. She's a holistic educator, an author, speaker, and a reverend. So please welcome Mary-Anne.
So nice to be on the show with you. Thank you so much, Kira. I really appreciate it.
I'm super glad you could be here, and I'm sure you have lots to offer all the wonderful people in Canada today.
Nice.
I would love to start off by hearing, first of all, one of your main titles is a holistic nutritionist, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know the difference between a regular nutritionist and a holistic nutritionist. So I'm wondering if you can explain that for us.
Yes, yeah, that's true. A lot of people actually get confused by that. There's actually 3 ways of looking at it. Okay. There's the registered holistic nutritionist, which is what I am, which means I was registered. I went through a school. I have a diploma in natural nutrition. We teach mind, body, and spirit. We know it's all interconnected. Mm-hmm. So we've learned the science of the body, and then all of the ways around food and herbals, homeopathy, Reiki, all of those natural ways of helping the body heal. And it's not like, I help the person heal. I provide the tools, and then the body heals itself. Then the regular nutritionist, if you want to look at it that way, is maybe somebody that took a weekend course and they learned a few things about nutrition. I think network marketing companies do a lot of that. They go, these are some products, and, let's talk about the body like this and why they need these products. And, so they would not have gone to a school. They're not registered through any body. And then I get many times mixed up with people going, so you're a dietitian. And a dietitian, also teaches about nutrition, but they're through the, government mandate, they have to teach Canada's food guide. And as a holistic nutritionist, we don't. We work with the needs of the body. And so, they can work in hospitals and, in areas that holistic nutritionists cannot, but we have somewhat of an advantage because we know that food sensitivities is paramount. There's a connection between high levels of stress and the body breaking down. And so we can work around that and still give a program to help individually. Everybody's biochemically unique. And so we can almost give like a roadmap that says this is what your body needs and this is how we get you there.
Thank you. I know for myself, as you explained that, I realized that I was thinking dietitian, but I was actually associating that with nutritionist. So I wouldn't have realized that difference. So
yeah, we get that all the time. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So can you share about how you got involved in this industry? What prompted you to move into holistic nutrition?
Great question. I actually didn't prompt myself into getting here. It just sort of landed in my lap. I was just an average secretary, mom, wife, homemaker, etc. And next thing you know, I was bedridden with 2 debilitating illnesses, a very challenging childhood. And next thing you know, I went through 11 doctors and specialists. They couldn't help me. I saw 2 dietitians. They couldn't help me. And so I had my back up against the wall, and I really felt like I was dying. And I saw a holistic healer who much later told me that, that she saw that I was. And I knew that, but I had 3 young kids to raise. So there was still that part of me that said, oh my God, God gives me these 3 beautiful children, let me be able to raise them. Right. And so I got involved in holistic health. I have no memory of how I even stumbled upon it. But the next thing you know, I was into taking some herbals, and I was learning a lot about natural nutrition. I'm adopted, and so I thought, oh my God, what are my kids going to maybe come down with someday? You know, are they going to be afflicted with this? And so instead of just learning about nutrition, I became a nutritionist just to help myself and my children, and found it was my passion. So I start talking to people about, are you drinking your water? Are you getting your rest? Are you eating, you know, your fruits and vegetables? It was so funny. So it was just a natural calling. But then I started seeing clients who, you know, they come, most of them are women, they want to lose weight. And I start finding that, you know, this could just be another food thing that they go home and they sabotage because they don't understand the mind-body connection. And I'd always been interested in psychology and the mind ever since I was young. And so I became a coach and took a coaching program so that it's not just about eat this food, eat that food. It's like, you know, what are the components that want to make you stress and comfort eat? Because we know that 80 to 90% of doctors' visits are stress related. And so it's not about this is the next, you know, diet, which is what they thought, you know, look at the first 3 letters of the word diet, right? It's not healthy. We don't want that. We want to be at a natural, healthy weight, and we want to eat, you know, to sustain life and to stay healthy and not stuff our feelings. So I learned a whole lot about the mind-body connection, and, you know, was able to take it a lot further and deeper for clients.
That's wonderful. I know you had a lot of great advice for me, because I can relate. This is how I've gotten into the ideas of holistic health as well, through my own physical challenges and health-related issues. And for sure, I definitely agree how the impact of the mind-body connection, how strong that is. So I'm really glad you're here to share about that and about bring awareness to it so other people can see that maybe they can take charge of their own health.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so true. You know, some people, some of the older generation, right? It's like, well, I'll wait till I get sick and then a doctor will give me a medication.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, so do you really want your body to get that far that you're ill and you need medication? We know, you know, drugs have side effects, and holistic medicine, natural foods have side benefits. So you do 1 or 2 things. If you just make one change, you're actually 2 steps forward, because number 1, you're stopping the thing that's holding you back from good health. And the other is you're moving another step forward by putting in something that is helpful to you. Right. And so the side benefits are very far reaching.
That's a really good way of looking at it. You know, side effects as opposed to here we got side benefits.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. Yeah. And when I do an assessment with clients, I mean, we take the most important things, like digestion clearly is one of the most important things, right? We take the most important things and we take the biggest issues, right? And then we start working on those, and we don't look at anything else in the meantime, unless, you know, for a paramount reason we need to, right? Because we know that when we take care of the basics and the big things, everything else tends to fall into place. And the next thing you know, they're thinking better, they're sleeping better. You know, it's not just, wow, I feel better, the bloating's gone, the weight's going, you know, I'm not stressed anymore. Yeah, it's very far reaching.
That leads into my next question. So you mentioned an assessment. Is that how most holistic nutrition or holistic treatments begin, with an assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as a coach, I always say, you know, if you want to get somewhere, you got to know where you are now in order to know where you want to go. It's not just, I want to be here. It's, but where are you now? And so people will buy books, they'll take supplements, you know, Sally says, oh my God, this herb is going to be so good. It's going to give you energy, or it's going to help you go to the bathroom or whatever. And then it's like, yeah, I don't feel any better. But you know what, if that's not the paramount issue, there might be many other things going on, and they need to be addressed instead or along with. Right. And so people shoot in the dark and spend a little bit of money here and there. When they get an assessment, we find out exactly where the imbalances are, where the toxicities are, where the deficiencies are. And so then we get to cleanse the organs and glands, only the ones that need cleansing. And we get to top up and, you know, redesign a food program for specifically what their body needs. And everybody's biochemically unique. And so we can't go, well, it's a one size fits all. And when I started taking the nutrition course, it's like, oh, there's all these books, but realistically, we all have one body and we all have the same parts. And I have twins, and they even have different requirements, and they have the same interests, the same friends. But when it comes to, you know, their body, their health, you know, and even being twins, they still have different needs. And so then look at the average person. Even if we had the same parents and we ate the same foods growing up, there's still many components that make us unique. and then we look at lifestyle and, how I eat versus what you eat, food sensitivity, stressors, all of that is so unique. So so I do what's called an assessment through paperwork, because our body speaks to us in symptoms. And most people don't even recognize that. But you don't know what you don't know until I go, oh, well, but, you have this symptom and that, means this. They're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it is actually through paperwork, and it will tell us, we do the whole body assessment. That tells us what's going on in the body. We do a lifestyle analysis, and it tells us lifestyle, how you eat, how you live. So now, there might be a few people and, they might need a saliva test. And so we can order those too. They cost, substantially more than just doing it through paperwork. And like for 90% of people, we can get everything accomplished just through the paperwork. But for some people who need the saliva test, then we go that route as well.
But there are no other invasive tests, no blood work, no, and other...
Well, I send some people to the doctor, or some people actually, clients will say to me, okay, so I'm going to go see my doctor. What do you want? And it depends on what their health history is and what we're dealing with. And I'll say, well, while you're at it, get tested for this, this, and this. And a lot of times when you go for a full physical anyways, it will cover most of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
So I would like to then find out, once you've done that assessment and you have an idea of what the person's main issues might be, how would a holistic nutritionist go upon treating or prescribing? Because you're not a doctor, you wouldn't prescribe.
We recommend or we suggest.
Exactly. So what types of things are generally recommended for people?
Right. Well, first I want to say I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose, I can't prescribe. Right. But on the assessment, it'll show us imbalances, and the greater the imbalance, the more we see what's going on. And from there, I can just make recommendations. And so the first and foremost is the food. Most people underestimate how important the food is to overall health and lifestyle. And so we need to put in the foods that the body needs. And the more you put those foods in, the more the foods that don't sustain us healthfully tend to go away. And so, I don't want to focus on, well, you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this. It's about, your body needs this, this, and this. And so, we put together a food program. We talk a lot. Once we get that under control, we talk a lot about the mind body, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health. It's like, when do you stress and comfort eat? Right? Which is really a food addiction. When I went through a separation divorce, I saw a counselor, and then I found out on the last visit that, she had actually gotten a thesis in food addictions. And I'm like, wow, I wish I had talked to you about that. But she said, no, about 90% of people actually have some form of food addiction. When you're upset, when you're stressed, what foods do you gravitate to? Most people will gravitate to something. Yeah. Or alcohol or drugs or something. But when we're down, so then you look at that with food and you go, okay, so I'm feeling really happy and content with my life. What foods am I gravitating to? Well, then it's easy to eat on track, right? Yeah. If you're down in the dumps about something, you're stressed about work or whatever it is, the dynamics are off. Then what are you craving, right? So because then the brain chemistry is off, right? Dopamine levels are low, or serotonin, your happy hormones are down. We're never craving broccoli, right? That's when, the wisdom of the brain goes, give me some sugar and give it to me now and help me balance hormone levels and cortisol. And so, so we need to learn to work with that, right? And then the mental body, it's like, what am I thinking? If life's about, oh my God, life sucks, right? Like all of those emotions, I'm depressed, I'm sad, we're closing off our energy. And if we live in the upper half of the cups, half full instead of half empty, and we know we live in gratitude and in joy and abundance, then all of those things come. And when we stay in that, then it's easier to stay on track with our food, with our lifestyle. We know we've got a higher power that supports us. We might do prayer, meditation, and then, and then it all comes together. So it's all about body, mind, and spirit.
So if food cravings in those low moments do have a chemical connection, the dopamine levels changing and such, there are tricks to say, oh, I'm craving that sugar, it's because I'm not feeling very well. There's something you can do to kind of counter it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and for my VIP clients, I actually have a checklist of if you're craving this food, this specific food, this is the problem. And it could be an emotional one, it could be a physical one.
Yeah.
Right? And so people who crave salt, for instance, generally have adrenal fatigue, which means they've been stressed for a long period of time. And the adrenals are two little glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and they literally get burnt out. And so people who crave a lot of salt tend to be people that, have had long-term stress and, they're just not keeping up.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So much to learn. So much to learn.
I know. Well, and I have 25-year-old twin sons, and they're athletes. And we tend to find that most athletes actually crave caffeine and they crave peanut butter.
Peanut butter? Huh.
Yeah, peanut butter. And it's like, isn't that interesting? So, some of it's physical, some of it's emotional. So, and that's the thing. When you work with someone who's a holistic nutritionist, we can literally pinpoint a lot of what that is so that it makes sense. You might still say once in a while, well, I know that this is about that, but I'm feeling this and I'm going to eat that anyways. But if you have a food sensitivity to it, you might only do it so many times with awareness, and you go, why am I doing this to myself? Right? Because part of it's about self-love too. And you go, I'm now recognizing that when I feel like this, I eat this, and then I feel worse for the next day or two, because it takes about 48 hours for it to process out of our body if we drink enough water, but about 72 hours before it actually leaves our system, right? If we're dehydrated.
Yeah, I definitely know that process.
Yeah. So when people say, well, I know I shouldn't eat this, but I only eat it a little bit about twice a week. Well, that means it's in your system all the time.
Yeah. I went through that until I learned that very fact, and how especially that once your body is attuned to the fact that it shouldn't be having it and realizes this because you've cut it mostly out, your little soldiers are just on high alert. So the tiniest little bit, people try to say, oh, it's just a bite, it won't hurt. And they're like, no, because now your little soldiers are on a hyperactive duty and they're ready to pound. So that reaction tends to come even stronger and more immediately. So it's definitely something that people will, it's one of those touch a hot stove and don't do it again kind of moments.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So unfortunately people tend to learn from their mistakes.
Right. But if you don't know what it is, if you're just eating, we have about 20 meals that are our favorites. So we're eating the same thing constantly. If you don't know what that one thing is, or that one little ingredient in that one meal that's tipping you off and sending you into, food sensitivity, not feeling well, whatever it is, then how would you know? Because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so when I look through people's food lists and we make the changes, we can zero in on the things that are making them feel ill, and we can pull them. Because awareness is everything, right?
So you've been in this business a while now. And I believe from what I've seen and, with trends in the stores and the shops that are opening up and the services that are opening up, that there seems to be a move towards more of this holistic care and natural treatments. I'm wondering from your perspective is how that's happening, or how much that's happening, or what's influencing it.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Awareness has just grown so much. 20 years ago, it was like trying to get clients to drink water. Oh, I don't like water. I don't want, and it's like, no, but you need water, right? And it helps detoxify, and I tell them all the great things. Now it's not, it is sometimes about still people don't like water. Now it's getting them to understand which water is good for them. Oh. And so when I teach seminars, there's always, the talk about which is the best water system and what about this and what about that. And so same with supplements. 20 years ago, it was difficult to get people. They go, well, I just get everything from my food. And I'm like, well, actually, you don't. And so it's not about whether you need supplements. It's like which ones. But, I think because of the internet too, there's so much accessible information. The boomers are getting older. So, grandparents, 20, 30 years ago were happy to rest when they retired. It was okay to just, sit in the rocking chair or just, go out. Yeah. The people that are now in their 50s, 60s, the boomers, they're like, are you kidding? I want to travel. I want to play golf. I want, like they know that if they take good care of themselves, that they can extend their life a very long time, and they don't need to, die 20 years before they're dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can be active, and they could just do whatever they want with their life.
Right. Retirement isn't, I'm retired, so now I can just do nothing, right?
I can play.
The world is open.
Yeah, I can plan. I can do all those things that I, wished I could have done, but I was working, I was raising my family, etc. And so it's like a whole new lease on life. So they say about 70% of people are accessing some kind of alternative complementary healthcare.
Wow.
So, whether it's seeing a nutritionist like myself, whether it's going for Reiki or a massage or chiropractic or osteopathy, there's so many things out there, and they're realizing that it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
one of the biggest demographics nowadays that impacted the move is the baby boomers.
Yes. Yeah. And we see it actually out there in society now. I mean, you wouldn't have even seen this maybe, 10, 15 years ago, except maybe in California. I mean, you can go out to a mall and for lunch, you can go get a nutrition drink, right? A smoothie.
Yeah, booster juices and
booster juices. There's green drinks, so instead of juicing at home, right, going to get all your organics and doing juicing and doing those cleanses, you can just like go to the store and buy them.
For sure.
They have apple chips, somebody told me, in McDonald's, like kids meals now.
Starbucks, too, is carrying apple chips. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And so we're seeing all kinds of healthier alternatives. A lot of people, I go to seminars a lot. You see a lot more people with nuts and seeds instead of, the chips and the chocolate.
Yeah.
Right. And so, or their bottles of water instead of soda pop. And a lot of that is awareness. So people have either seen somebody. Okay, so for like myself, for me, most people who come to see me are like 30 to 55. So they're women, they're stressed, they want to take care of themselves. Women are the born nurturers. So we're the ones taking care of our spouse. We're the ones taking care of our kids. Not always, but we're usually the ones in the kitchen.
Yeah. Right?
So a mother comes to see me. She's a wife. She goes home. She says to her husband, here, eat this meal, take these supplements. And he goes, okay, honey. Most of them don't even ask what it is.
Right.
And they just do it. It's hilarious. And then the kids, they're the ones making the changes at the dinner table.
Right.
So I had one lady come to me and she wanted to drop some weight, and she did. She was a night nurse and she was just dragging her butt. And I'll tell you, she lost the weight. She looked amazing. And then one day she says, so do you think that my husband's blood pressure is normal after 20 years because of the changes that we made? And I said, she goes, yeah, like doctors have tried all kinds of things and never made a dent in normalizing. It's always been really high, and now it's normal. I said, so the only change is the foods that you're cooking him, which is the stuff we've been talking about. She said, yeah. I said, well, then, yeah.
That's got to be a clear indication.
So now we know the latest research is children born today will not outlive their parents because of the junk foods, the processed, the toxins, you look at the obesity and the diabetes in kids that we never ever saw 20, 30 years ago, right? So that part's really scary. The good news is when somebody comes to see me, the whole family changes. So I'm helping the moms change the next generation so that they have healthy children that will grow up healthy and outlive them and be the way it's supposed to be, right?
I totally agree. I mean, growing up, we'd think that in my family, going to McDonald's or someplace like that was like a treat. Wow, right? And
yes.
And yet I have a cousin of mine, her son, he won't even eat French fries offered to him because he doesn't know what that is. Because she's raised him. They have a small farm and she's raised him to appreciate whole foods, raw foods, and natural things. So and people think, oh, well, it's just so good they want it. I'm like, no, they want it because they're socialized to believe that it's what they should have, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm heartbroken to hear. I'm heartbroken to hear about moms and they're rushed in the morning and they take their kids through a drive-through on the way to school. Yeah. Or, like my kids used to say, some of my classmates, this was grade 6, some of my classmates, their parents drop off fast food for lunch. And they're like, how come we don't get chips and chocolate bars and, those fast food places at lunchtime? And I'm like, so are these the same kids who go to the office for medications at lunchtime? They're like, yeah, how'd you know? And it's like, well, because it makes sense, right? Yeah. So, my kids are blessed. I was blessed. I got to work my business around my children. So my kids came home and mom was at home. I would take an hour. I would cook a healthy meal. Now we can do it in 30 minutes, 20 minutes and still make it healthy, not using the microwave. But I would take my time and make a beautiful dinner, and we ate as a family every single night. So we were at the table for like 30, 45, 60 minutes every single evening. unless it was soccer, then we might rush.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those days are gone for a lot of people. You look at the 2-income families. I'm finding out how many women actually were never taught to cook. And so, the instant stuff is all that they can do. And that's doing a disservice to them and the children.
Yeah.
And so, I feel blessed when I can take on, a woman who really wants to and is ready, right, to reduce the stress, balance her hormones or adrenals, whatever it is, and make the change for herself, because I know that she's then helping her children as well. Because they're going to pick it up. They're going to learn to love food.
So with this trend happening with the general public, is this affecting mainstream medicine? Are more doctors, opening up to the idea of recommending other services? Or do you find from your experience that it's still slow?
I think it's still slow. I'm lucky I have a physician who's also an anti-aging doctor. And he actually had married a nutritionist, so that was quite lucky for me. He's very in tune with all of the great stuff out there. And so, he would say to people, this isn't the kind of flu that I need to give you any medication for. Go take vitamin C and zinc, and so that's great. That's not typical. Most doctors have a 3-week nutrition course in all their years of training, and it's optional. And so they don't even know the basics, unfortunately, of what we know. They know a lot of stuff, but they really don't have the benefit of understanding how food is impacting. Actually, when I got out of bed and started getting on with my life, and I go to my physician once and I said, oh my God, I feel so much better, and I changed my foods, and I'm on these supplements, and like I'm starting to feel amazing. And he goes, yeah, but food had nothing to do with it. You must be in remission.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
And this is what he thought back then. And, sometimes over time, doctors will take a few minutes and learn stuff. He has, and I feel very lucky about that, but most haven't. And so,
I'm surprised to hear like that nutrition is such a small component of their
right.
training.
Well, I know. Yeah. They don't understand how impactful it is. And so if somebody has diabetes, they can send them off to, a dietitian.
Yeah.
But then, if their blood sugar is low, they're taught to eat 5 lifesavers to bring up their blood sugars. And to me, that's like, well, that's sugar, and then you have the blood sugar swings that go up and down. In holistic nutrition, we like to go to the root of the problem, right? And help balance things that way. So, there's good and bad in everything, right? The more awareness people have of holistic nutrition, the easier it is for people to want to work with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Take care of their own health by their own means. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know that from what I'm hearing, that a lot of insurance companies and even provincial health, they're covering a lot more of the therapies than they did in the past. And those things are just external. But now there's more coverage.
Yeah, there is actually. Sometimes I get to speak at corporations, right? Lunch and Learns, put on seminars, whatever. And people will have in their EAP packages, right? It's like you can spend X amount of dollars per year on whatever you want. And it could be holistic nutrition. It could be Reiki. It could be, they can decide, yeah, I want to see chiropractic, or I want a little bit of everything, acupuncture. And so there's a whole blend of services. Sometimes it's like, one company I heard of, it's like you can spend $1,000 a year on massage, and maybe they don't offer other things. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I can always send a letter. If somebody says, wow, you're not covered, but many other services are, I would just send a letter to them and say, would you extend, this type of thing? Because I have a registration number. And so, if people don't have coverage,
send a letter directly to the insurance company.
And to see if that company will offer it to their employees. Mm-hmm. And so then they can look at that and go, yeah, actually that makes sense. So I have a registration number, and if people don't get it covered through that, then it's a write-off on their income tax, because it is a medical, it's a medical claim.
Awesome. And I just wanted to add in, you've mentioned Reiki twice now, and some of the audience might not be aware of what that is. But I understand I'm level 2 Reiki trained, and I was introduced to Reiki 15 years ago.
Okay.
And it's a natural form of healing through the energy of the body. So just so people are aware, right? The universal energy coming through the body energy. Many people are aware of the word chi, which is
yes.
the second part. The ki, the right ki, is actually the chi, your energy of your body. So
yes, and some people call it prana.
Yeah.
So there's these main energy centers that go all the way up and down your spine, and so it works to kind of cleanse and balance those. But there's really hundreds of energy points throughout the body. Two main ones are the hands. So it's a hands-on healing. People are clothed. It's like laying down and just relaxing. And it just really de-stresses and it just balances mind, body, and soul. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful way of just kind of, releasing. A lot of people use Reiki the same way they would use chiropractic maintenance. It's like, let me just go once a month, and just balance myself out.
Right. Yeah. Others go as needed. And what's the wonderful thing about it is that because it's energy, like it will go to your body where it's needed.
Where it's needed, yeah, and it works on the most important things first. And I mentioned Reiki because I am a Reiki practitioner. I'm a a teacher practitioner. However, I do most of my sessions virtually, and exactly like the way that you and I are doing them. I send people an invitation through Zoom, and if not, we can just do it by phone where I can call people, and we do it this way. So I send all the documents through email. They send it back through email, and then we talk like this so that they can just be in the comfort of their home. If we do neuro-linguistic programming, which is changing the dynamics in the brain, then, if they want to lay down and be comfortable, if we do meditation, they're laying down. And so, everything is from the comfort of their home because I see clients from all over North America.
It's definitely a wonderful advancement, of modern time. We say, in one case, internet has brought out the awareness of all these things, but it's also given us the ability to share them with people who might not have had access otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
People who have disabilities, who have difficulty getting out to a location, can partake in these sort of alternative therapy services, many of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
Chiropractic is very hands-on, as is massage, but a lot of when it comes to nutrition services, as you said, it's a paper-based assessment and discussion-based and learning, and as well as the Reiki, because it is possible to do distance healing.
I could do Reiki etherically as well, because energy is energy. It goes anywhere in the world you wish it to go. Yeah.
So wonderful technology, wonders of technology in this case. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. I have just a couple more questions.
Okay.
Let's see. There is so much out there. Actually, there's so much out there in the way of information. If you Google in like any topic, there comes, hundreds of articles on that topic. And so is there a way or a method or a particular approach that is good for people so they don't get overwhelmed with all the material, or even particular sites? Of course, your own and your blog is a wonderful resource, but any other particular sites that you would recommend for people who are just starting to learn about the idea of holistic health and care?
Yeah, great question. If people are interested in what I have to say, my website is www.creatingtotalwellness.com.
Which will be with the post and with our video.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Love the video.
Awesome. Yeah. As far as not getting overwhelmed, that's a tough one because there are so many articles, there's so much information out there. And so just like I could say this food is healthy because this research says, there'll be research that says this is not healthy and why it's not. And so, it gets to be even overwhelming. I remember when I talked to a nutritionist before I became one, and I said, oh my God, that must be so exciting. And he goes, are you kidding? It's just so overwhelming now because there's that much more to try and decipher. Mm-hmm. But if you're very clear on what you want, or you're very clear on what you need, you just need to be very specific with Google searches. Mm-hmm. And so you could just add in, nutritionist, prenatal, and get very specific on what you need.
Right.
And so that you can hone in just on that information. And then make sure that you're dealing with someone, that the first thing I look for is, was it written by a journalist, which means it might be skewed. I want to know that it's not been written by a traditional doctor, that it's actually a holistic doctor, because sometimes they pump out information that actually is not true. Because I think some of the mainstream stuff likes to slow down holistic nutrition.
Yes.
Right? Because, the more that we get healthy and stay healthy, the less drugs we're buying.
Right. Yeah, so there is that issue of the pharmacology and industry and attempting to overpower the mass.
Yeah. So, Google what is of interest to you, make sure that the information is credible. And one thing usually leads to another. So I read this article and this part was really interesting and this said to go here and I might want to learn that. And then you read that and then it's like, oh, that's right. I also need to know about this, right? And you can start connecting a lot of dots.
Really looking for the sources of the information first, finding a good source of the information, and then looking for the specifics.
Yes.
That's a really, really great point about the journalists. I hadn't even thought about that. I wouldn't have thought to bring that up, but that's very true, that there are some people that are writing just from their own experience. There's some people that have done research on it, but then other posts, other blogs, other websites that are information content based are written by the nutritionists themselves, like yourself. So it's a very good point to look specifically to make sure that's what you're reading from. So.
And that only came to me because over the years I have clients come to me and they're like, oh my God, I read this article and they said, and then they're all scared and worried and et cetera. And I'm like, so, did you reference who it was? And, that's when I started learning over the years that some information is just not credible or valid, and then it scares people. Yeah.
So is there in Canada a national board for holistic care?
I'm with the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutritionists.
Okay.
And so, it is an overseeing body for sure. And I had gone to school at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. So that, I have a degree, I have a diploma in natural nutrition.
Right. So there is a nationwide certifying board, so that if somebody did want to see somebody in person, and then they can look for this board and there's some Wonderful. So
and I do see people in person as well, but if they want to make sure that somebody's accredited instead of just, having taken a weekend course kind of thing. Hey, I'm a health coach. That's one way to do it, is just to go on, we call it CanPro, CA8N-PRO, on their website and see who all of their practitioners are. And then they're dealing with someone,
people feel that they're getting somebody that they can trust as far as their expertise and things. So,
and not only that, because we have certification numbers, right? That means that I can provide a receipt, and if you can write it off either through your place of work or as a medical expense, that makes a bit of a difference at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, for sure. Most people.
I don't want that to stop people. If they need help and they have to pay out of pocket, oh my God, get the help now. It's a lot cheaper to stay healthy than it is to get healthy. And I really know what that one's like.
Yes, I absolutely love that attitude that's coming out more and more, that people are realizing that prevention is so much easier, or so much, at least it's not just that it's better because then you don't have to go through that stuff, but there's less of a process, there's less expense, and people often, as you said, think that, they're putting the money out of pocket, or this isn't even something that isn't covered, right? They think that, okay, I have to pay this, it isn't covered, but what does it prevent? And how much, we have to do and to go through and to put out because of this. I mean, if it's doing this now and paying this a little bit now is going to prevent surgery later.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I had one client and he said, I'm saving like $25 a week, from having seen me and doing the work with nutrition. It's like, wow. So not even the health that he has now that extends him how many years, or the, health issues he, might not have because of this. He's actually saving money, a lot of money on a monthly basis by eating what his body needs and not doing the other stuff, and not needing to hunt for different supplements or read this book and try and figure out stuff on their own.
Yeah, I know finance is always an issue or a concern for the average Canadian, and many have the idea that to live a healthy lifestyle, they have to put out more money. And so I would encourage them to explore that the opposite can definitely be the case.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, Mary-Anne, thank you so much for all the information you've shared, and I'll definitely have your contact information for everybody who's listening and wants to find out more.
All
And
right.
it was really great, and I hope everybody has learned as much as I have today.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Kira. It was a pleasure.
Okay, take care, Mary-Anne. Talk
You
again.
as well. Bye for now.